Hello, welcome to Model Kit Stuff. My name is Jason and this is part 19 of our Endeavour build by Amati. We are tackling figure 17 today in this video, so let's just read through what that says. It says, continue with the application of the handrail. Drill on the deck the holes for the insertion of the eyelet sets based 45 and 46. That's our two parts here. Obtaining the drilling points from the plan view. Present in the technical table. Glue pieces 45 in the holes. Insert eyelet 46, checking the correct inclination to receive the round bar in brass 47 and the terminal head element 45. Once the correct position of all pieces are established, gluing can be started. Drill the holes on the deck for the application of all the remaining eyelets 45 to 46 with reference to the plan view of the model, then glue. So we've got the railings to do, and if you look at it, we've got two different styles to do. This is the main style where we're going to have this brass rod pass through the eye, so we'll need to put these in and then feed the rod through, which should correct the position of that in theory at least. And then this one is where we do the end piece. So we've got two 45s, one that goes in the deck, the eye that goes into the railing, and then we're using this other one as an end cap. So yeah, so what we need to do is consult the plan and decide how we're going to tackle this. So as we look at the plan, we can see the railing going along this line here, and it's pretty much 10 millimeters to this from the center of the point there to the edge of the hull, outside edge of the hull, all the way along. So you could measure it, but it's a bit difficult to measure the first one, and it'll be much more difficult to keep it straight. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to trace the whole thing, then we'll cut out the center bit so that these items aren't getting in the way, place it on, tape it on, mark with an awl the center positions, and then perhaps go with a pencil and just make them a bit more visible. Then we can drill the holes, then we can insert everything, put the wire through, and then when we're happy we can go in and glue them all in, put the end pieces on. Now we have some others to put on, which are these ones here, and they should go on the outside of your little wooden strip. Now in my case, my wooden strip is a bit too close to allow that to happen, so I'm going to put them just inside. So as long as they're as close to the hull edge as you can, that's the important bit, because they're going to become rigging points, I suspect. So there's no other reason to have eyes along the edge of the deck there. So those are the additional ones that we want to mark out. So I won't be marking these out, but what I'll be doing is looking at the positions relative to that, and so that'll be a separate bit of marking. So let's get on with it. Let's get some paper for tracing. I'm going to use kitchen parchment because that's what I've got, so let's do that. Okay, so as always we need a reference point to line up on the model, so I'm going to use the rear of the hull there. And that's going to give me my edge to find when we put this onto the actual model. And then what we're going to do is draw those circles and put a dot in the middle. In fact, we probably only need to put the dot in the middle. You could do it that way if you like. So it's easy to find. It's the center of the line where it crosses with the railing, so make sure you get them spot on. And we just need to do that the full length of the model, and you can see I'm holding down the paper as we go so that it doesn't slip on the model. Sorry, on the page here, on the plan. If your paper's moving around, it's easy for the distances to change and you not notice. Okay, and that completes the railing marking positions. Okay, so next thing we've got to do is look at what else is remaining there. So any other positions we need to mark, we can do now at the same time. So as we're at the bow, what I'm going to do is I'm going to draw the bow in there, and then we've got one to put in there. So we're looking for anything that looks like one of these that so, and we've got one there, one there, and then the rest of them, I think, there's a number around the mast here, so we mustn't miss all of these. So what we're going to do is we're going to draw the mast point in like so, and mark these out. There we go. And then there's some more either side of the central point of the deck, actually. So you get the idea. Mark them all out, and then we'll put them on the deck. So I'll finish up doing that. So I'm going to start with the ones that go around the mast. And what we're going to do is, you can see, in addition to what you saw on camera, I've marked a centre line, which is on the plan. If you use the bird's eye view, the top one, it has a centre line. So we can align that with our centre line on our deck. And get that aligned over the hole. And that puts that on the centre line, so that's correct. And then using a couple of bits of tape, we can fix that down so that it doesn't move, making sure we don't cover off any of the positions we want to mark. There we go. And then we can just go round with our awl and push through the paper into the wood with our point there, marking the center position of all the little holes that we need to drill. Don't push too hard, you might break the deck. Particularly at this point, there is no supports under this desk, which increasingly as I go through the build feels like not the best idea given the amount of drilling we have to do. Okay, and then once they're marked, we can go around with a little pencil and just go back round all those little marks you've made, put a bit of pencil mark in them, and that should be a bit easier to see. I'll take that tape off. We can reuse the tape in a minute when we do the rest of it, and there we can see our marks nice and clear, ready for drilling. So that's good. Right, we can do the same process with the railings. So what we can do now is we can take our marked out positions. You can do this one of two ways. You can either tape the whole thing onto your deck so you can mark it out, or you can do what I'm going to do, which is line it all up and get our center line right, and then just tape sections at a time and work sections at a time using the distances between the ones you've done as reference. So what that means is we'll tape this down, we'll mark out the first couple, and then we'll double check the distance between the next ones and just keep taping a little bit down at a time and working around. Because of the cleats and things, they're a little bit in the way, so it just allows us to keep moving. It's probably easier than trying to tape the whole thing down, because with the cleats and the guide rail strip in the way there, it's not easy to locate your paper. So I'm just going to do it a little bit at a time. Right, you've seen how we're marking it out. It's exactly the same process as we did around the mast. So I'm going to crack on with this and I'll show you what it looks like when it's done. Right, with all our positions marked out, we can now start drilling the holes through. I'm using a 1.5mm blade, which is going to allow me to push that through and give us space for gluing the rim down. So this should fit in fairly loose, but we're going to trial that in a moment. So let's put the first one on and see how we get going. So with the hole drilled, we can just have a look and test fit how this goes in and make sure everything is okay and we've got the drill bit size right. There we go, that goes down beautifully. So I'm going to drill all the rest of these holes out and plop these in, and then I'll come back to you when we're at the next stage. So we now have all of our positions drilled out and I have dry fitted all of these. So the next job is to insert the pins. So we have these little clips and they're considerably longer than the actual pins. So some of these might need to be trimmed, especially some of them right on the edges near the edge of the bow and the stern where the hull is a bit more shallow. So we want to go through and dry fit all of these and make sure that the length is okay and that they fit. So that's my next job. So the way to go about that is to put the long end in first and then squeeze them together and push it down into the hole. And then you need to make sure that you've got the orientation correct. And there you go. That's all there is to it. So nice and easy to do. So the way to do it is to put the long end of the clip in first and then give the clip a squeeze together so that it passes through the eye, and then you push it down as far as it'll go. So that's how we construct those. I'll just show you doing one on the actual model. So we just put the long end in, squeeze it together, there we go, and then get the orientation right. We've got to pass brass wire through this to create the railing, so we can correct the exact position of that as we go. So the next job is to dry fit all of these ahead of gluing them into place. So I'm going to crack on with doing that, and then I'll come back to you when that job is done as well. Once you have put all the little clips into the eyes, we're ready to glue them in. Don't glue in the eyes into the handrail, however. We'll do some gluing in a moment, because you need to be able to run your brass wire through the handrails to get the positions perfect, and then we'll glue them in. Now your wire is a little bit oversized, and the instructions ask you to use an eye at the end of each to finish the rail. But actually, if you're going to do that, you're going to have to drill the end of the eye, the narrow end of the eye out with a 1.2 millimeter drill bit, just to widen the end to allow the brass wire to pass through the tube. However, I don't like the look of it. I prefer it to terminate just as wire, so I'm not going to do that. Now the other thing that I want to just mention is when we look at these instructions, there's a couple of areas where it's not clear to me whether we need to put an eye in or not. So here, just behind the definite eye, and then here just in front, I should say, just in front of the eye at the front. Both of those show a little ring, and I'm not quite sure what it's used for. And when you look at the plans, we can see that it has a number 7 and 8, so it's assigned a rigging line, and when we look here we can see that 7 and 8 are rigging lines, and then there's a little diagram of the line disappearing into the hole. So those are eyes that we need to put in. So let's have a look at those. One of them will be easy, one of them will be somewhat more tricky. So let's have a quick look at that. So we have two more holes to drill, one just in front of this eye here and one in front of that. The problem with this one is we don't have the depth for a full length for one of those, so we are going to have to cut that, and we'll have a look at doing that in a minute. So let's just drill the holes to start with. You have to be really careful you don't end up going through the hull because it's such a narrow part of the model. So this one should just plop into place like most of the others have done, but here it's not going to go all the way down, so we need to trim it off. So I'm going to use my wire cutters here, and we're just going to trim so that we've got a short bit of rod. Doesn't matter if it gets crushed, as long as we can always reshape it if we need to, but as long as it drops into the hole, we're okay. So I'm just going to get some tweezers. Yeah, so we're just going to have to reshape that a little bit. So I'm going to use some flat pliers just to squash the hole back into a circle. There we go, that looks circular now. And that goes down. So now we're ready to do the gluing, so let's do that. So we'll be using medium CA for this job, and what we're going to do is we're just going to lift out our eyes in their assembled state and just put a small amount of glue on the shaft and under the lip. That is going to be enough to secure that into place. Don't put too much on, we don't want it leaking out onto our deck. Then when we've done all of these, we can go back and glue the actual pins in. But for now, we're just going to glue all of these in place, including the ones for the railings here. But be careful not to get any glue on the eye, the eye pin that's gone in there, because we need to manipulate those when we put the wire in to make this handrail. So for now, we're just going to glue them all in. So you've got an understanding of what I'm doing, so I'm going to carry on, get them all done, and then we'll have a look at gluing the pins in. Once you have glued all your eyes in, we can then take the little clip out, put a small amount of glue inside the hole, and then making sure that we're putting it in with the correct orientation as per the plans. In this case, running in the direction of the deck. We can plop her back in. Now, CA is a brittle glue, and if you handle it too hard it will break, but it should be firm enough to cope with all the rigging. So that's what we're going to do with all of these many eyes that we've got to deal with, lots of them. But don't glue into place the ones for the railing. We'll come back to those when these are all done. Right, with all of our eyes now glued into place, with the exception of the railing eyes, which are glued, the eye bolts are loose, but the fittings are actually in place and fixed in. We can now thread the brass wire in. So what we want to do is start at one end and just guide it through each eye. So if we start here, and it should easily go through each eye. There we go. Just lining each individual one up as we go. Nearly there. Then when you get to the end one, you've got to decide how long you want that bit of bar to protrude. Okay, so there we go. You should have a reasonable amount of excess at the back end. So what we're going to do is we're just going to push the bar back so it's flush with the end, and we're going to put a little bit of medium CA underneath the bar so that when we push it forward that gets dragged through into the eye bolt. And we'll do exactly the same with the end one on the stern. We don't need to glue the rest in because the bar will just sit where we want it. So then we can push that through to where we want it to sit, and that bar is now glued into place. And then the last thing we can do is just with a little bit of medium CA put a dab on the base of each one of the stanchions, so as the little eye bolt goes into the base piece we can now lock those into place. And that is our railing done. Make sure they're nicely pushed down as you go. Please hit the like button and subscribe if you haven't done so. It's free, and that way you won't miss my first impressions, my tool reviews, my product reviews, and any of my builds, including wooden model kits as well as plastic. It's all free, and if you'd like to support the channel, you can hit my PayPal link in the text below. Every pound goes straight into the channel to keep the cameras rolling and to do more fun stuff for you to watch.